Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining us on this evening, depending on wherever you are in the world today. My name is Letitia Clerkley. I'm an admissions counselor here at the University of Denver. I work with our families in Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Southern Colorado, and the local Denver public schools. So if you're from any of those areas, a special welcome to you. Today, we're going to talk about the political science department with our chair of the department, Joshua. But before we hop into that, I did want to go over a few housekeeping rules. So we're not enabling the chat today. All of your questions can be posted in the Q&A that's down at the bottom there. You do have the ability to raise your hand, but please direct all of your questions to the Q&A feature, as well as there's an opportunity to enable closed captioning if you do need that as well. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Joshua.
Great, thanks. And I just want to say good evening to everybody. And I told Letitia before too that as I'm not going to actually see the questions as they're coming in, but you can send them to her. And if there's something that I haven't followed up on in a section, I said it's totally fine to interrupt so we can address those things. But here to get started, figured I'd do a quick introduction and then talk about the political science department as a whole, how the major is structured, some of the student opportunities that we offer, a little bit of where some recent graduates have ended up, and then open it up to a full Q&A session. So in terms of just a quick personal introduction, I've been at DU for 10 years now. I have my PhD from the University of California, Berkeley. And then before coming to DU, I served as faculty really briefly in the UC system. And then I was at CUNY, the City University of New York after that. And then left CUNY to come to DU, and I'm now, as you just heard, the department chair. Okay, so I want to start here by positioning the political science department within the larger university and kind of position the larger university within the range of schools that you might be considering. And the way I usually like to talk about this is actually why I came to the University of Denver as a faculty member, because I think it relates to things that you might want to consider as a student thinking about joining the University of Denver. And so part of what drew me to DU is that I thought that it occupied this rare space in academia, like in higher education, that it's this rare kind of hybrid between a research university and a liberal arts school, right? So usually we think about research universities as being really the big state schools and some other large institutions. And then we think of liberal arts schools as being these much smaller, more intimate spaces. But what I really wanted in my career was an institution that really drew from both of those spaces. And as I said, that's a large part of why I came to the University of Denver. And so I see those opportunities as really represented well in the political science department. So to start, it's an undergraduate only department, which means there are no graduate students competing for the faculty members' time, right? Like our focus on students is wholly directed at the undergraduate population. And so this leads to really kind of unique levels of access and opportunities for students. And so you really get this kind of close contact and familiarity with your faculty members. So like it's pretty common once students figure out where they want to specialize within political science, that they'll take repeated classes from certain faculty members. And so then when it comes later to their considering going to graduate school or going to law school or even going into careers, the letters of rec that faculty members can write for students can pull from a lot of experience and also pull from a larger span of time. And so you can really give this close description of how students have grown over the course of their undergraduate's career. And so that's kind of, it gives you an example of that smaller liberal arts feel that's in there. Another kind of quick example of this is, I remember when I first came to DU, I was invited to give a talk over at CU Boulder. And I went over early just to kind of hang out on campus and check things out. And one of the things that occurred to me really quickly was how anonymous I was on the CU campus. Versus when I'm on campus at DU, I can't really walk across campus without getting a wave from a student or saying hi to an administrator or something along those lines. Again, giving you that kind of smaller liberal arts environment. But it's not so small that it becomes claustrophobic or stifling. It's still kind of large enough as well to give you diversity and range. And this is where I can start to pivot a little bit to the R1 side as well, the research side, is you have this close contact and accessibility with faculty members, but unlike many liberal arts institutions, the faculty members in our department and at DU are producing R1 level scholarship. So R1 being the academic kind of designation for the highest research productivity schools in the US. To give you a quick example of this, our faculty now consists of 11 tenure track members, and of those 11, I think we've published 5 books in the last 4 years when I was just kind of tallying things in my head. And then, of course, on top of that, many more articles and so forth. So you have this level of research that gives our faculty kind of recognition both within and beyond academia as well. Various faculty members are sometimes hired for consultation. We're really regularly contacted by media, both as sources and as contributors. So a fair number of our faculty members, I should say the overwhelming majority of our faculty members in the department, have written and placed op-eds related to various political issues and how they relate to the research that those faculty members are doing. And then, right, as students, you get these really high levels of access to faculty that you wouldn't get at a similar at a larger R1 institution, right? So you're getting that same type of faculty member, but you're getting an access to those faculty members that you wouldn't get elsewhere. So then to give you some ideas of what that can look like, of course, there's just the regular classroom interactions. Our classes are much smaller than most R1 institutions. But you also have these opportunities to work as research assistants or I can give you some examples of classes. Right now, Professor Seth Maskett is teaching a class on US elections, and he took his entire class to Iowa for the caucuses recently. Another faculty member, Nancy Wadsworth, in a interterm class, has taken her class to Rwanda to talk about the Truth and Reconciliation Commissions and other ways of dealing with mass atrocities. Professor Liz Sperber, her class has worked in partnership with community organizations to run data for them that they can actually use. And so these are ways of showing you not only that you get access to faculty members that are doing high-level research, but again, the school and the department are kind of small enough and nimble enough to offer opportunities that you might not be able to find elsewhere. So that gives you some ideas of kind of what drew me to the institution and what might draw you as well. Let me then pivot now to give you a quick overview of how the major is structured. So it's a 10-course major. We have 2 introductory classes that all students are required to take, or rather you need to take 2 introductory classes, but you can choose from a menu of 4 different courses, depending on what your interests are. All students are required to take what we call political inquiry, which is really our research methods class. So that's teaching you both how to do political science research, but also, I would say more importantly, how to understand research. And so to make you more kind of literate in understanding how research is done and employed. We then require 1 upper division course in each of our 4 kind of subdisciplines, the way we've organized the major. So we have American politics, comparative politics, law and politics, and political theory. And just as a quick, American politics is probably fairly transparent what that is. Comparative politics is looking much more at country A's system in comparison to country B's system. And that's different from international relations. International relations tends to exist over in the Corbell School. So that's more of country A invades country B. Comparative politics is more of let's understand the systems in country A and compare them to the systems and functioning in country B. Law and politics, that's also maybe a little bit more transparent. And then political theory, that's kind of a meeting of political science and philosophy, for lack of a better term there. Okay, so you have one class in each of those subdisciplines, and then you round out your upper division career by having 2 upper division electives and then a capstone. And the capstone should be the final class in your political science career. And what you're really doing in that class is you're pulling from all of what you've learned over your major in order to produce a larger piece of scholarship. So really the general thing there is you're going to do some research on your own, and you're going to produce generally a 20-page research paper. So that gives you an idea of the classes, the way the major is structured. We like it because it gives you both kind of breadth and depth and choice in there, right? In that you have a choice when it comes to introductory classes. Yes, you have to take one class in each subdiscipline, but then you also have A, choice of what those are, then B, choice of what your additional upper division classes will be. Another thing is, as a 10-class major, which is pretty typical on campus, and as a quarter system school, this leaves you plenty of opportunities to double major, to pursue other opportunities in addition to political science. I think rare is the DU student who is not double majoring. And then another thing to kind of add in here, and this goes back to that kind of smaller liberal arts element, is every quarter students are invited to meet one-on-one with their faculty advisors in order to talk about their progress in the major and what classes they should be picking, and kind of how to plan both for the immediate quarter and for the future more generally. A couple other points to throw in here. We also have honors or distinction in the major. That's distinct from the University of Denver's honors program. And we basically offer 3 different opportunities there, 2 of which you really have control over. One of them is intended for students who want to go on to pursue graduate degrees, like a PhD in political science. There, students can propose a project where they work for an entire year with a collection of faculty members to produce a larger research project that they then defend in front of a small faculty committee at the end of the year. Our second track is aimed more at students who might be thinking about going to law school. And that's really where they're taking a pre-existing paper that they've produced in political science and then working closely with a faculty member to convert that paper into an academic journal article that they'll then submit to an undergraduate academic journal and go through that whole process. And then the third one, which students don't really have control over, is really a capstone faculty can nominate particularly strong capstone papers for consideration for honors.
Hey, Joshua,
Yes.
if a student was wanting to pursue a double major, how difficult or different would it be for them to do that within the political science department and say the math department or any other department that might not be as adjacent?
Yeah, so it's quite easy with almost every other major on campus. Because like I said, most programs are 10-course programs. And if you just do the simple math here, right, you've got 3 quarters, you're taking 4 classes per quarter, that gives you 12 classes a year, right? You can, nobody's going to do an entire major within 1 year, but that gives you an idea of, oh, okay, 10 classes, and within 1 year, you're taking 12, and then multiply that by another 4, you definitely have room in there to add other majors. The only places where it becomes a little bit more challenging, I would say, is double majoring with music and with some of the engineering programs. But it is still quite possible. I can actually think of multiple double majors with music and poli-sci. It just means that because music and engineering have more strict regimes of course sequencing, it just means that you really should be going to those quarterly meetings with your faculty members to figure out how to structure your classes so that you can get through everything in time. Does that answer the question?
I think that did it. Another one just came in. What are some
Okay.
examples of topics of previous capstones projects that students have done within the major?
So capstones, because they're still a class, and so really the way these tend to work is that the faculty member sets the class, and then students select topics within that class. And then typically we offer one capstone in the fall, one capstone in the winter, and then two capstones in the spring. And so if you're going into your senior year, you can, again, meet with your faculty advisor and get an idea of who is teaching what. Oh, my dog is going to join us now, apparently. But you can meet with your faculty advisor to figure out who's teaching capstone and what those capstone classes will be. So you can be a little bit more strategic about, say, you're really interested in American politics, so you want to take a capstone with an American politics faculty member. To make this a little bit more concrete, I'm one of the faculty members who's teaching capstone in the spring. And the class that I'm going to be offering for the spring is the full title is something like Echoes of Empire, the American West and Modern American Conservatism. And so what we're going to be doing in that class is talking about the roots of modern American conservatism, but giving a very specific Western geographic focus. And then students in that class are going to be asked to select topics of their own. And then I've also told them that this class is going to have what's called an American political development focus to it, which means that we're going to have a little crash course at the beginning of the class of what is American political development, what are the research methods employed in American political development, and then the students are going to employ those methods and come up with their own topics within this idea of understanding American conservatism and the West. So does that answer the question for you?
I think that was good.
Okay.
A few others before
Sure.
you pop back into your spiel. One, asking about the pre-law track and the connection with the University of Denver Law School.
Okay, so there's a couple things to say in here. So one is the idea of a pre-law track is kind of a myth. So what I mean by that, so my PhD is actually through Berkeley's law school. And so I spent an inordinate amount of time in and around law schools. But there's the idea of a pre-law track assumes that there's some sort of set formula for getting into law school. And that's a misconception. There's many different things that law schools are looking for, but kind of what they are looking for at the core of every student is, can students engage in analytical reasoning? And can they communicate well? And can they read well? And so a major like political science is pretty typical for going to law school because we develop those skills, right? You're doing a lot of close reading, you're doing a lot of writing, and you're doing a lot of analysis. And so you're developing this skill set that's directly transferable to law. So that's one way of answering this. Another is that I know that DU does have a program where you can do this accelerated undergraduate career to then get into the University of Denver's law school. Like I said, it's essentially, I believe, shaving a year off. I can't speak to that program directly because I don't run that program, but I'm sure if you look at the Sturm College of Law, they have that information on their webpage. Again, is that
Thank you. I think that was perfect. And then last one before you hop back into your train of thought there is, what are some typical career paths within the political science department?
Yeah. So that's where I was going to be going here in a minute. So I'll kind of jump ahead to that. So, and this kind of dovetails actually off of my my kind of addressing the idea of pre-law is that I think it's really important to think about your undergraduate kind of career really as about cultivating skills, right? And also cultivating interest. So I really would focus on, all right, what are the skills that you're developing in political science? It's this writing and communication, research, this ability to evaluate and to think critically. And those skills are really transferable to a broad range of jobs beyond kind of like, what I want to break here is this idea that there's a one-to-one correlation between what you major in and what field you work within, right? There's actually very few fields that have that direct correlation with undergraduate majors, right? You see that more with like engineering or something along those lines. That said, right, we have plenty of graduates who go on to work in government, or you could say kind of state adjacent fields. What I mean by that, right? You have plenty of people in nonprofits. You have plenty of people that go into private companies and media. I remember meeting recently with an alum who ended up going into law and city planning and development. Kind of go off a list of other recent grads that I've met with. There's one student had a particularly interesting course where he went from being a poli-sci major to becoming an antiques map dealer to then starting his own political consulting firm. I know another recent student who got in contact with me who is from New Zealand, and he's now in the New Zealand Foreign Service. I know plenty of people who have gone on to work in the legislature in various ways. Legislative aid for Diana DeGette. Actually went to a going away party for an alum who used to run the Colorado Democratic Party's Senate campaigns, who just got recruited to go run the campaigns for the Democratic Party in the state of Pennsylvania. And so she just left on Sunday. So there's plenty of kind of examples that you can find. Oh, I could say another alum that I met with last year was working in HR and actually wanted to go to law school to practice labor law. So there's lots of different paths. A very typical path, of course, is law school. I can say students that I've written letters for recently have been at University of Cincinnati. This is where they ended up going. University of Cincinnati, Vanderbilt, Duke, Columbia, UCLA, UCI, and of course, DU and CU. Oh, and there was also another recent alum who just finished at UCLA in the law school there and was awarded a Skadden Fellowship, which is a really prestigious 2-year fellowship that allows her to pursue public interest law work now on a full-time basis. So again, pretty broad range of places where they end up. What I really push students to think about are, what really interests you substantively, and what department will push you to develop the skills that you want to develop. Because you really want those two things so that you succeed both in college and beyond, right? Like you want to be interested in the subject matter so that you do the work, right? So that you're intrinsically motivated. And then you want to choose a major that's really going to push you to develop skills that you think you want to continue to work with beyond that. And then the opportunities and the ideas of what to do afterwards will emerge over time. So we can just pivot to Q&A since technically there's only 5 minutes left. The other stuff I was just going to throw in there here, I'll just highlight it really quickly. One, we have internship programs that we offer through the department where you can get major credit. The way we do those now is that you take an internship class at the same time that you're doing the internship itself. And we like that because it allows you to see the connection between what you're learning and what you're doing. And it also puts you in a cohort of students who are all doing the same thing. And so you have that ability to share in the class your experiences. We also offer a global master's partnership with our partner university in Sweden, Lund University. It's a top 100 international university, a large research institution. And the way that works is, if you're interested, you do 3 years of your undergraduate at the University of Denver. Your 4th year of undergraduate is done entirely at Lund. Then you fly back, you graduate, and then you return to Lund for 1 additional year in which you earn your master's degree. So that gives you another idea of another kind of unique opportunity that's available there. But here, I could keep talking for a while, as you might guess, so I'll just pivot to doing Q&A for the rest of the time.
Perfect. So another question popped up asking, do AP credits for from US government or politics classes transfer into the political science department pretty easily?
Yeah. So it's very typical that students will knock out at least 1 intro class through AP credit or something along those lines. Those we actually as a department don't handle that. That's all handled by advising and the registrar. But yes, very typical.
Next question. Are there diverse ideas or thoughts promoted and not all one-sided? Maybe specifically in the classroom?
Yeah, of course. So as I said, it's a robust group of faculty members who are interested in a wide range of things. And our aim really is to get students to think, right? The whole point is to get you to learn how to think critically. And so, yes, of course, there are a diverse range of ideas that are brought out in the classroom, right? That's how you spur discussion. That's how you spur critical thinking.
Good. Phenomenal. Next, how common is it for an internship to turn potentially into a full-time job opportunity after graduation?
That's highly dependent on on the internship itself. To give you a little idea of the way that we do our internships is that typically in the winter, that's the Colorado legislative session. And so we offer our legislative internships we offer the Colorado legislative internship class in the winter, and then students do the internships here in the Capitol. If you don't know, there's a very quick train line that you can take from the corner of campus to get right downtown and do your internship. Many students who end up doing those internships end up working in politics afterwards. This is a thing I say regularly to people considering coming to DU, is one of the things I like about Colorado is that we're big enough to matter, but small enough to have access. So it's a lot like the university. And so students that I know who have decided to go into politics in Colorado really move up the ranks quite quickly. And a typical way in is through those legislative internships. And then we also offer in election years, we offer campaigns and election internship class, and then students intern in campaigns and elections in the fall. And then in the summer, we offer a legal internships class that's online, with the idea being that you can go get a legal internship anywhere in the country, still do the class, get that benefit, but get exposure to law that way. Something I really strongly recommend to anybody who's considering going to law school, so they have a better idea of what it is that lawyers do all day. And then I should also mention, we have another partnership with American University in DC where you can do a semester at American, earning DU credit, but in that semester, you intern in various institutions in and around Washington, DC. So that's another way of getting looped into internships. And again, that typically can lead to jobs afterwards.
Thank you. Lost you three here. Sorry to keep you all over. We'll do these three and then I promise I'll let you all leave. Is there a particular intro class that students should look at potentially taking if they're undecided or considering political science as a major?
Sure, yeah. So actually all of our internship classes, or sorry, not internship, intro classes, they're kind of two birds with one stone. You get an intro class. I gotta change my I word in my head here. You get your intro class that counts towards the major, but all of those also count towards your general credits and requirements for your undergraduate major. So then I go back to my spiel overall of choose the one that looks most interesting to you, right? Are you more interested in American politics, in law, in comparative politics, or theory? Pick one, right? Go with where your interests lead you. We offer many of them over the course of a year. Go to where your interests lead you and see if the class continues to spur your interests. If it does, you'll usually get enough exposure through that one class to then say, I took this Intro to American class, and when we were talking about the Supreme Court and litigation, that piqued my interest. So now I'm going to take the Intro to Socio-Legal and see where that takes you, right? So all four of them are great options. So it's really driven by your particular interest.
Thank you. Next question. Do you feel that international studies and political science are compatible for double majoring opportunities?
Yeah, that's a really common double major, right? Like other common pairings, we see a lot of Soc and Crim with poli-sci, history with poli-sci, public policy with poli-sci, and of course, international studies over in Corbell with poli-sci. And yeah, it's a natural pairing there because you have these essentially adjacent interests. The things that I would say are again, the main difference there is that Corbell and international studies are interested in kind of how countries interact with one another. We have some of that, but that's really kind of the way to define what they're doing. Whereas when we're looking at other countries, it's more of thinking about systems and how those systems compare. But those two majors, very, very common to pair together.
Thank you. And last question for the night. Do you see students who hold less popular political views on campus participate as much in class as students with more popular ones?
Yeah, really. And that's part of the thing of having a smaller environment is that students get to know each other, students get to know faculty members, and that both of those things increase comfort levels in the classroom. And those comfort levels encourage talking, right? And then also it's really part of the role of the faculty member to create those spaces where conversation can happen. And so, yeah, this kind of goes back to that earlier question about, diversity of viewpoint and so forth, right? Like, yes, of course, like this is what institutions of higher ed are meant to do.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for joining us and staying over just a bit more. This recording will be posted. So if you forget anything that we mentioned, we'll email you the recording as well as post it on our YouTube. So feel free to find it there. Thank you so much, Joshua, for joining us tonight, and you will have a great rest of your evening.
Yeah, have a good night. Thanks.